we've been fighting this. Well, we started 3.5 years ago in April, and we've kept it going ever since. And the more the council say no, the more determined we become.
I have this kind of mental picture, you know, that having met you before and seen the other side, that you're just like a couple of balls at a gate, aren't you? I mean, what is going to actually change the impasse that seems to be there at the moment?
Well, the Events Rock Group came in year last January with proposals to take it over and spend £8 million there and convert it back into a theatre again. Well, a multi-purpose entertainment centre in actual fact. And they withdrew their offer because they said that the council were just dragging their feet all the time. And back in January, they came to tell us exactly what they wanted to do with the building, and it was absolutely marvellous. It wasn't just going to be for theatre, it was going to be, well, they are the snooker legends in actual fact, the rock group, and they wanted to put snooker on there, darts, ice skating shows and that kind of thing. So it was going to be a multi-entertainment centre rather than just a straightforward theatre again.
Would you have been happy at that? I mean, I've always suspected that it was the fact that it was the theatre you wanted to keep.
From our point of view, yes, because we hadn't got the big plans that the rock group had got, because we hadn't got the facilities. They have got people connected with their business that could take it over basically and run it, whereas we would have to bring a manager in, somebody to book shows and that kind of thing, and we'd have to employ full-time staff, whereas they would bring their own people in to run it.
So is that offer from the rock group still there?
Not at this particular point in time. Dudley Council leader Pete Lowe has actually written to the rock group and invited Jonathan Kendrick back, whose father owned it in the early 60s, for discussions. There are 3 sticking points. One is the asbestos, but that seems to have been removed now by the council. They say they're going to remove it anyway, which we've been telling them all along, because it's got to come out whether they demolish it or not. And things like that, the car parking was another major problem. We've identified a car park that could be, well, it's wasteland at the moment, that could be converted into a car park.
Is that close to the theatre?
It's right at the end of the Dudley Southern bypass by Castlegate Island,
right.
So it is just a wander across the road basically. And we have had discussions with the Dudley Zoo themselves. Derek Grove, the new director there, he was very friendly with us, and he said as far as they were concerned there shouldn't be any problem with parking at night. Okay. And they would be very sympathetic on the quiet times during the day. I stood in Dudley Marketplace for 18 months, virtually every Saturday morning, and we got thousands of people to sign the petition. But it wasn't just signing the petition, it was actually talking to them as well. And the number of people that came forward and said, you've got to save that place, it's not got to be demolished. And I worked there, or my father or mother worked there, and it was a nice conversation to have on a Saturday morning with people. It wasn't just a, can you just sign this, and then they walk off. They stop and have a chat with you about it.
Is it because the building is so iconic, or is it the principle of having a theatre in Dudley?
Well, both in actual fact. It was always advertised as Britain's most modern theatre when it was in its heyday in the 40s and 50s. And of course Dudley put in for city status a couple of years ago and was turned down. And at the same time they're trying to demolish the only theatre within the borough. And we thought this was pretty ironic, really.
I mean, it's a very attractive building, isn't it?
Well, we think so. The council think it's an ugly site, and one or two of the residents that write in the Express and Star think it's an ugly site. But therefore, we said if we'd have taken this over 2 years ago, 18 months ago even, we'd have had that front cleared up and made it look more attractive. Now the Rock Group wanted to come in and put advertising boards on both sides of the building so that you'd see it coming down Castle Hill and coming off Castlegate Island. And this is something we would certainly have looked into. But you know, we've got our enthusiasm reawakened. Black Country Gaz, you've probably heard of him. He's just put a new thoughts on the matter through to Pete Lowe at Dudley Council, and he said it's very difficult to put figures on without getting people in to assess it. He said because we can't put running costs on either, because it's going to be run in such a way that it won't be just a theatre. We shall hire as many rooms out as we can, and the basement was a nightclub at one time when Ladbrokes got it, and we intend putting that on again as well, and using it as a nightclub at the weekend, and maybe put in DJ in midweek. We believe that there's a renaissance period for theatre at the moment, and what better time to bring Dudley Hippodrome back, one of the better ones in the Midlands, and hopefully one of the best in the Midlands.
Of course, I know that you have the support of Ken Dodd, don't you?
Oh, we do, yes. He's supported us on several occasions, and he has said that he will put something on for us. Not necessarily one of his shows, but he would come down and be on stage with us while we put other entertainment on around him.
Well, it's extraordinary to think about it. I mean, he's into his 80s now, isn't he? And he was at the Civic Hall in Dudley not so very long ago.
At the town hall, yes, he was, yes. Yeah. It's, I did phone up to see if I could get an interview with him, but I think you actually interviewed him in his dressing room.
We did
so
indeed, yes.
They hadn't got a slot for me.
Oh, right. Oh, sorry about that. Well, we can let you have that if you want. But I mean, it's extraordinary to think that, I mean, people like Laurel and Hardy, because everybody knows that from the, you know, the silent movies through to the talkies, as it were. I mean, they appeared on stage there as well, didn't they?
Oh, they did, yes. I'd say all the top stars of the day appeared there. I think Laurel and Hardy came twice, in actual fact. But it was the very first, it was a recording actually, but it was the very first pantomime to be shown on the television.
Oh, really?
Way back in the early 50s. And then I think it was a couple of years later they actually showed one live, and that again was the first pantomime ever to be shown live on television. Because
you were telling me, I mean, your early memories, childhood memories, are going to the pantomimes there.
Oh yes, yes. There were all the top stars in the ascendancy, and it was always packed out. I think, as we are hoping to do now, if we could get some good names on there for pantomimes during the Christmas season, for want of a better description, we would go a long way to pay for the rest of the year for the running of the place. What would
the seating, you know, how many people could you get in there, do you think?
It was 1752, I think.
Right.
But that had been reduced to about 1500. I'm not quite sure how, but of course we would have to have modern seating now, and we would hope to get 1500 in there, so it would still be one of the bigger theatres in the Midlands.
Because I know that the people who don't share your enthusiasm, and we haven't got long for an answer on this, I'm afraid, is that they say, you know, that unless you're going to be able to pack it, it's not going to be viable to do it.
Well, I did some figures based on what Gala had sent us when they pulled out, and what it had cost them to run the place, and I updated them, and I think we could run it on 800 that being there, so it's about half capacity.
It sounds good.